The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSR TV, your home for sim racing. And live tonight from the Talladega Superspeedway, LSR TV with you to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the 2018 Championship Esports Association American Pool Supply Truck Series on your home for sim racing and iRacing Live, where tonight we get set to go green flag racing for round number 11 of this 2018 campaign. We're happy that you're with us at the LSR TV booth tonight. As always, myself, Evan Pusoko, Trevor Valderrama with you as well. Downstairs, lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuza, Twisted and Tweaked Dials, bringing us to you this evening. And Trevor, we come off of what is always a fun race out at Texas, but nothing can quite compare on a race-by-race, I think, excitement level to Talladega. And we go racing for the 11th time this season, and it is on the high banks for 75 laps and 200 miles start to finish tonight.
Yeah, obviously we had a great race at Texas last weekend, with the turn 2 exit and the turn 4 exit. But here, all 2.66 miles of this track is excitement level, and and we have that long straight away until that start finish line. It's not like Daytona where it's just right at that tri-oval. It's a little bit further down, and we have a lot of room to go 3 wide and even possibly 4 wide, as I saw in practice. So we are setting up for a great race tonight here at Talladega.
And we know what Talladega is going to bring. There's nothing in that is surprising. We've seen this track many a times before, and we will see this track many a times into the future. But the one thing that might be different in a Talladega race here tonight compared to anything else is the fact that we are racing in these trucks in this American Pool Supply Truck Series. And you can compare what an A car does to a B car to these trucks, and obviously every time there's a new iRacing to build, and throughout the years the draft models and the packages on each individual car has changed, no doubt. But I think specifically for a place like Talladega, Trevin, you talked about that little bit extra real estate, much wider of a racetrack than what we see in Daytona. I think these trucks are the best car you can get out on track at a race here at a plate track like Talladega, which is why I think it's going to be a very fun race. You got a good size car count, and it's not that long of a race. 75 laps is, yes, still 200 miles. That keeps it on par with what we've been seeing basically all season long. But at the same time, it's only going to take us 37, 38 laps to get to the halfway point, so it is not as long of a race. So these trucks like to hook up very good. I would think you'll see people a little bit, I don't think panicked is going to be the right word. We'll get to that later on in the race. But I think people are definitely going to have a little bit more of a sense of urgency out of the gate, knowing that they don't have 300 some odd miles to play with before they really have to get down to business.
Yeah, and that's the most important part. They got to know how much time they have left in this race. If they have 10 laps versus 50, you still got to get to the front, obviously, but you got to be smart about it. It is a plate track, and drafting is going to be a huge part of this race. And as you said, these trucks are going to be a lot more easier to handle compared to an A car or B car. So we're shaping up for a great race, and these drivers got to be smart, got to start logging some laps, and just make sure their car is there at the end for this 200-mile race. And you have about 34 cars in the field, so that's a pretty hefty size for a plate track. And we're just going to see action all around the track, and we'll see how these groups are going to line up for this race tonight.
And of course, the added element when you're doing plate track racing like this is teamwork is at the forefront of everything. We'll run you down through the qualifying order, and of course you'll see the qualifying times, and just keep an eye on some of the names grouped together back of the pack that have about similar lap times as the drivers and teams that are all going to be working together as this race goes on. But all of that being said, the qualifying session is drawn to a close. Let's go trackside and take a look at your LSR TV starting grid for tonight's Talladega 200. So pole position in this one going to go to Gary Sexton, and it is by a mile, a 55.169 will put him on pole position. That is over 0.3 of a second better than Tyler Dalton's time. Going to line up the driver of the Talladega machine on the outside of the front row in second position. William Kemp, Cable, and Bitter going to make up row number 2. That's going to be third, fourth starting spot respectively, and Gerald Campbell behind them will round out your top 5.
P6 will go to Jeremy Adams, Ryan Howard, P7, P8 will go to Kyle Lowry, Josh Dietz in P9, and rounding out your top 10, Nicholas Caldwell.
Just outside of the top 10, you will find Kenny Lowry in the number 11 position, Randy Yoakum rolling off in 12th spot. John Theodore gets the unlucky number 13 starting spot in this one. Steve Hollingsworth will be his neighbor on row number 7 in 14th position, and Todd Novosad behind them, P15.
P16 will go to Bo Givens and the number 1 machine. Reese Baham will go to P17, P18 Matthew Murphy, P19 Jeremy Watkins, Christian Peterson P20, and this is what Evan was talking about with the interesting group choices, 7.
Yeah, and you continue on through these times. You're looking at drivers obviously way outside of the back end of the faster times. Also, 1 minute and 2 second times for Matt Cucker, 21st position. You got a couple of 1 minute 3s for Dustin Dean, 22nd, Seth the Merchant, 23rd, and Blake Griffith in 24th. And then a very slow time for Ricky Harden to round out your top 25 as cars begin to roll.
P26 will go to Kyle Major. These are people that have elected not to take times. Devin Morgan, P27. P28 will go to James Brugula. John Lyday, P29. And P30 will go to Paul Henley.
And then we'll round things out here last couple of rows. Dwight Beverly will start from 31st position. Derek Paulson also there 32nd. And then all the way at the back here, it's going to be John Abigadaka in 33rd and Sean Cross in 34th. And it's going to be a look top to bottom at your LSR TV starting grid. And Trevor, we talk about this Talladega Superspeedway, a racetrack that obviously clocks in as infamously so at 2.66 miles in length. We already talked a little bit about how wide this racetrack is, which might be a little bit more of, I think, a mitigating factor in the kind of racing we see on track here tonight compared to, just the hard stats of the racetrack itself. When you talk about those 33 degrees of banking in the corners, the tri-oval, basically a corner in and of itself, doesn't show up as such on the track map, but a very loose down on the inside of the racetrack. But I think a combination of this wide racetrack and these trucks are going to be the big thing that we keep an eye on tonight. Should be a fun race as we get set to go for 75.
A fun race indeed, and that trial that you were talking about, there's a little, I feel like it's a bump on that bottom side that can get drivers squirrely, as you were talking about, so watch out for that, for the people running on that low side, to see what happens if they're running close together. And if they hit that bump a little bit sideways, they're going to go up into the outside car, a little bit like Iowa Speedway. So we'll have to watch for that as they go through the tri-oval, especially if they're running 3 to 4 wide.
That being said, pace car down to the safety of the pit lane. You'd have to hold until you get to the green flag, at least to the restart box on this one, of course. Start-finish line not centered on the tri-oval. It's a couple of extra 100 feet down towards pit exit. As always, though, we're happy that you're spending a Sunday night with us on LSR TV in iRacing Live. American Ethanol green flag in the air. We're off from Dega, round 11 of the American Pool Supply Truck Series. The Talladega 200 getting up to speed. First time the pack goes 2-3 wide to turn 1.
They're already getting 2 or 3 wide right before turn 1, as you're pointing out, but right now that bottom side is really hooking up. Tyler Dalton on that outside really trying to get something done, but Gary Sexton and I believe that's William Kemp trying to get that bottom side as well. As you see now, Tyler Dalton getting a great push from Gabriel Wood. We'll see if he can clear that first car out before turn number 3. No, it's not going to happen. That bottom side's going to get up a little bit more, as we saw 3 wide action behind you.
Yeah, that 3 wide action was the one track that got stuck up on the outside of the racetrack. It was not a very good opening lap of this race for the 49 of Kenny Lowry, who got kind of pushed up on the Dodge machine, and he was that lone orange truck up on the outside. Lap 1, Gonna come to a close. Drag race to the line. I think inside, yes, Gary Sexton, 15/100ths of a second to keep him in front of the 19 Tyler Dalton, who up top again had a lot of help. Typically, you would expect again that outside line to fall away, and it is not going to be as, I don't think fast is the right word, but not as secured as that bottom lane of the racetrack. If you're going to pass, you got to go up top. You're not going to make a lot of passes down low. That's more so where drivers go to ride and defend their position. But it takes a little bit more effort, and you have to be a little bit more on that ragged edge, pushing and getting physical for that outside to work. And again, these trucks lend themselves to bump drafting a lot more than the B or the A cars, so keep that in mind as we see that outside line stay just as strong as those down low. Towards the back of the pack, sure, you'll have some drivers falling off to the inside of the racetrack, but top 10, we are side by side throughout, and another close call at the line, that time by 16/100ths of a second. It was still Tyler Dalton behind on the outside of the racetrack, Sexton leading on that bottom lane.
And this is what we'll be seeing all night long if all the drivers can stay hooked up on either the outside line or the bottom side line. This will always lend to close racing towards the finish. You can see how close they are right now. They have an equal amount of cars on each, the high side and the low side, so it's really helping out to that. And you can see them just moving around, trying to find air and trying to stay in line, because if they overheat, that won't be good for their engines. So you see how close they are, and then the driver right behind that number 19 of Tyler Dalton, that's Gabriel Wood. See him poking out behind the car. That gives him a little bit more air going into the air intake and cooling the engine down a little bit more, so it's not going to overheat as much. And if you're on the outside, you have a lot of room to work with, but if you're on the inside, you got to be courteous of that car up there. You got to make sure that you don't get into him while you're trying to poke out and get some air. So that's something they got to be mindful of. And you see, Evan, how far away they're running. That won't be how far apart they're running right now from the inside to the outside, maybe 70 laps from now. They're going to get a lot more closer, trying to get a lot more side draft off to there, but this is obviously lap 4, so they're not going to be trying anything too early.
Well, the folks at Dang were very kind. They put those white hash marks on the corner, so it's a very good visual representation, not only for us to be able to see just where those trucks are on track in the corner. They tend to enter in the corner pretty much smack dab in the middle of that lane, and they'll walk closer and closer down to the white line as they get off of the corner, as they get a little bit more brave. But it's also a good reference point for these drivers as well, knowing how much room they want or do not want to give to the cars around them. You see another car going backwards on the outside. That is Jeremy Adams. He's not the first driver to get kicked out of line. That orange number 49 inside of him is the last car who did, but there's contact in front. Josh Dietz into number 9, and the 42 Orion Howard got together on the straightaway there. That time down the back, and well, they're okay, but anytime you start rubbing doors at 170 miles an hour, things can go downhill pretty quickly. So I think an incident possibly avoided there, as the Adams getting out of there for good reason.
Yeah, and now you're seeing that top line, really deteriorate a little bit, but it's going to be able to build up that strength and pull back to the front. You can just see how much of a factor that brought into it, but now it's pulling away a little bit. We'll see if he can clear him. I don't know if he's going to choose to or elect to come down in front of that car or not. I don't think it is, but this top battle is really doing good, and this was about an 18-car pack. Oh, we're starting to see a 3-wide battle now. This is interesting. Now they're utilizing that third lane. Gabriel Wood had enough, and now he's going to try and get in front of that number 19 and Tyler Dalton. That's the 06 of Jared Campbell pushing him, but now that 19's fighting back on that middle side. We'll see how this works out coming off the corner, if they can get a better run off the corner, but no. We're going to go 3 wide into the tri-oval. They're pretty spaced apart right now, as I was saying earlier, but playing, take some there, I'll give you some there, but this is just a great pack racing so far. They're keeping cool heads for the most part, other than that 9 incident, but I feel like they handled that well. And now the number 66 of Gabriel Wood just dropped back a whole bunch of positions, trying to go 3 wide. I think he'd been better just staying behind and logging some laps.
He's going to drop back just a little bit in the number 66 machine. That 3-car third line that he had going didn't work out, but you know what is? The 19 of Tyler Dalton. He has been sticking it out up tough there on the outside of the racetrack, and finally, the the assist to the Nana, Josh Dietz gets pushed to the race lead in this one. So many times, side by side with the truck that is now pushing him, Gary Sexton, to the line. But now Dalton will finally lead, I believe, what might be his first lap of this race. In fact, it's the first time he's completely cleared that number 31 machine as well. So now it's next man up on the outside of the racetrack. Nicholas Caldwell from 10th and Josh Dietz from 9th are the second and first trucks off on the outside of the racetrack, respectively. They've done a very good job of working through traffic to get into that position, and it looked like that 9 machine Dietz wanted to go down in front of the 31 with Tyler Dalton, but he did it. He just did not have enough space. The 19 wasn't sticking around. He said, "Thanks for the push, but I'm out of here." Dropped down to the inside. So you can bet that the 9 machine, if he can get a push, is going to be looking to get back in front of the 19 and maybe pay the favor back. And again, if you're on the inside, you can only realistically expect to lead this race for so much time, because that outside line is the passing line. As you see, the number 8 machine now, Randy Oakham, also try to get up and into the conversation.
Yeah, and it was only a matter of time before we started seeing this top line really start filing into that bottom line and start carrying away, because now Gabriel Wood has fallen back to 12th position when he was just right behind that second place car on that top side. So, you know, it's short track racing can be beneficial, and once you lose it a little bit, or excuse me, restricted plate racing, we are restricted plate racing, not short track racing. Once you lose it, that handle a little bit, you're just going to start falling back in the pack just more and more, and you know, at that point you just got to start logging laps until either that caution or until a pit stop. But nonetheless, we have Tyler Dalton in the lead. Josh Dietz getting pushed a little bit by Nicholas Caldwell, trying to get to that front position, trying to do the same thing that Tyler Dalton just pulled off. But now you see the number 28, that could have been just a thing of trying to see if somebody would go up there, and maybe he just had a little bit too much speed, or maybe his engine was getting too much, so he'll give that position to the number 8 machine of Randy Oakham and try to file back in line right behind that number 54 of Kenny Lowry. But right now, you see number 31 of Gary Sexton trying to jump in front of that number 9 of Josh Dietz, and that's a good shove that Dietz had just gave, so we'll see if that works out for him. Might be cleared, but not going to test it, going a little bit down to that white hash mark and trying to get pushed as far as possible. That was a little bit dicey right there, Evan.
Look, that Josh Dietz trying to do that for about a half a lap. Again, he wasn't a big fan of the 31 coming up. He gave him a pretty... a shot to the back bumper that was a little bit shifted to the left or quarter panel. I'd say more so than Gary Sexton would have liked, and instead of really hooking up and working with him, I think that Josh Dietz did exactly what he wanted to do, and that is get that truck out from in front of him, because he wants to be the one to be able to get back up on Tyler Dalton. So that move is going to end up costing Sexton some time. He'll still tuck in line 4th at the outside line, so it could be a lot worse, but that 8 and the 9 machine have been very aggressively working together, and I think that 9 machine did exactly what it wanted to do, and that was get that car in front of him away so he can continue to lead, and he and the 8 machine can continue to work together. One thing I'm also noticing, the Donata William Camp is we're working lap number 11 of 75. So far caution-free from the Talladega Superspeedway tournament is that the Donata Camp has got a car length back to the 42 of Howard. That third car in line down low, telling me that you got Kenny Lowry there, as you see the 9 of Dietz come down. Kemp was working really hard to push on to the Dalton, and there goes the 8 car. Randy Oakham's going to get turned in front of the pack, and just like that, caution, and a big one at lap 12.
Yeah, this is about what I was seeing in practice. You know, they're just running so close, and then something just goes wrong, and, you know, somebody gets hit in the wrong spot, somebody loses it a little bit, and around they go. Big hit for Randy Oakham. I'm not sure. We'll see. Yes, unfortunate end to his night as he tows that number 8 machine back to pit road.
It's not often that you're able to take a hit like the 8 machine did, go airborne, jump over company trucks to be able to drive it away. So the Andy Oakham there lost the engine, and all of that kind of ties back into the fact that the 19 wasn't going all that fast. Leonardo was working really hard to get the 19 up side by side. The 9 eventually cleared them, and then it had a little bit of an odd pairing with the 8 and the 54, and it again, just looked like not hard contact, but when that contact is shifted to the left rear of the truck, you're almost not even hitting the left side of that back bumper. You're almost hooking the rearmost part of the left rear quarter panel, and that's why the 8 machine went sideways and then snapped around. And the best perspective of that one was when you saw the on-board replay. That just a little bit of contact. At that point, there's nothing that Randy Yoakum can do. I think we're pretty fortunate that that one didn't take out a dozen cars or so, and it'll slow down what has been a blistering opening pace to this race with our first caution flag.
Yeah, and he definitely bounced off a couple cars on their roofs, but they look to be all okay for the most part. Maybe just a little cosmetic damage, which I don't think will play beneficial to them, as you know, this is obviously a plate track and you need all the aerodynamics that you can. So Gary Sexton has a little bit of front end damage, but I don't know if it'll be enough to hinder him, but he'll have to watch that throughout the rest of this race and make sure that he takes care of that machine. The 09 has a little bit of damage. That's William Kemp, but we'll see all these drivers come down pit road most likely, so we'll have to watch for that.
And you just saw there the 19 machineer Tyler Dalton was headed in pit road, bailed at the last second, and it looks like it is going to put him very much in the minority. Everybody else wanting to come down and get service at lap number 13. Not all that long of a run again by Talladega standards, expecting for the drivers to go for the safe call of just getting the fuel, and it is going to be strictly fuel for the Donna Josh Dietz, who just wants to top it off and keep going. Some of the other drivers on pit road taking just 2 right side tires. That's going to be the call for Sexton. Sexton off of pit road behind Stephen Hollingsworth and John Theodore. So a little bit of a mixed bag of strategy. Novosad also stays out, but only he and Dalton neglect to come down pit road. Dietz comes in for the fuel, and it is going to be quite a discombobulation of varying strategies by the time we get things doubled back up.
Yeah, and I believe that's William Kemp still on pit road getting some minor repairs done on pit road. You know, I'm pretty sure he'd rather have that happen on a pace lap rather than the actual race, so good choice by him, but that will drop him back a little bit, so he's going to have to crawl out of that hole for the rest of the night. He's dropped back so far to 25th position, so we'll have to watch that as well. Tyler Dalton, we pointed on, stayed out, so he will take that race lead, and Todd Novosad will be second.
Also want to note, Blake Griffith started this race and had some sort of an issue. I believe he had some sort of a connection problem, although he didn't actually receive a throughput fall and drop connection. He manually disconnected from the race session and has since reconnected, but he is 9 laps down all the way at the back of the field in 34th. Other than that, just Randy Yoakum, Kenny Lowry, the drivers involved in the accident, are off of the lead lap. Other than that, again, no incidents up until this point, at which we saw the contact down in turns 1 and 2. And, you know, for a race that really just started, hasn't had much more than, you know, the opening dash up front. Looked like that the lead pack had separated very quickly, I would say, Trevin, from that, secondary group of the pack. There was a big split between the first and second packs in this race. An interesting thing to keep in mind now is some of the bigger movers. Somebody like a Hollingsworth, 14th to 4th, or a John Theodore, 13th to 5th. Somebody else, though, John Lade, the driver who went 29th to 7th. That was because he missed his pit stall. So scoring will update as he comes into the box this time and gets service. That's going to hurt Lade, who, up until that point, hadn't actually made up those 22 spots that the scoring pile would have suggested, but was creeping his way forward, and this is going to be a major setback with that mistake on pit road.
Yeah, you know, obviously races can be won and lost on the track, but another part that people don't really realize is races can be won and lost on pit road. So you got to make sure that you're flawless in and out of pit road, especially coming in that box and exiting that box and making sure that you have the power down, but not hard enough where you're going to be over speeding and not get nabbed for a speeding penalty. So, got to watch out for that. And iRacing has a new build that just came out, and they have implemented the blue cone rule, I'll call it, and they have to make sure that they stay below that yellow line until they hit that blue cone, and then they can merge up. You saw it just pass by the drivers, so that's going to be another part of this race. If they don't, obviously they'll get a penalty.
And oftentimes the self-inflicted penalty can hurt a lot more than, a speeding penalty or any sort of a conventional penalty. and especially when all the trucks are on pit road. Not even if you do what Lide did and you completely miss the box and just drive straight through, but if it's more of a situation where you overshoot your box and, you know, flip it into reverse and it's a second to 2 seconds, maybe you're not going to feel like it's that bad, but when you go back out on track and you've lost 7 spots, you really understand how important knocking off of those yellow flag pit stops are.
Yeah, and you know, just bring you guys closer together. And another point I wanted to make was we have some separation between the team that was holding back there, and you know, was a little bit. I believe it was 3 seconds apart before that caution came out. So there's a little bit of separation, so they have to find each other to make sure that they can group back together and see what they can do. They are up inside. Matt Cucker and Christian Peterson are up inside the top 10 right now, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. And obviously, on that first start, we saw 3 wide going into turn number 1, so it'll be interesting to see what these drivers will do coming on this restart in a lap or 2 time. So you know, have to watch for that and make sure that these guys have a cool head and still know that there's a lot of race left to go, and you know, don't really do anything too drastic too early. The lights will come off of the pace car, so they're going to get doubled up, and I'm sure it's going to get you know, more heated up as the race goes on. But I'm sure these drivers as well will enjoy the fact that this is a 2.66 mile track rather than the conventional cookie cutter tracks that they've had the past 2 races. That was Charlotte and Texas, both 1.5 miles, both quad ovals that they really had to keep their bearings on. But this is a track where it can lend itself to just straight out racing, keep that foot down all the way to the metal, and you know, just keep it going.
So as you mentioned, lights go out on top of the pace car, everybody get a re-rack and re-stack, and you'll see the full running order go across the top of your screen. However, just to kind of recap what's going to be going on up front, Tyler Dalton's going to be in control. Big difference is, obviously, off of a restart as opposed to the initial start of the race. He can go anytime when the pace car goes down pit road to the time when we hit the restart box at Dega. It's a quite more exaggerated, longer of a window than really anywhere else. Problem is, you need help. There is no advantage to putting the right foot down and setting sail. So we'll see if maybe he and Stephen Hollingsworth have the ability to communicate some sort of a signal to count it down. That, or you kind of have to ease into the throttle to make sure that that guy behind you is coming with you, because if you get out by 4 or 5 car lengths, you're going to be a sit and duck in the center of turns 1 and 2. So Dalton controlling, Josh Dietz outside of the front row in second, then Steve Hollingsworth behind your race leader inside of row 2 third, John Theodore outside of row 2 and 4th. Those 2 cars, Hollingsworth, Theodore, started outside of the top 10, have worked into the top 5 together, so maybe they get something shaken and baking here off of the restart, try to work together, and of course your pole sitter Gary Sexton running out through your top 5. Pace car in this time, and let's see what the 19 of Tyler Dalton has up his sleeves. And a good start initially in this race outside. This is his opportunity to try to take off and control for the inside of the racetrack anytime he wants. We now to maybe the next 6-7 seconds as they go through the tri-oval, closer and closer to the restart box. The 82 machine is Stephen Hollingsworth. You got to get up and on the wheel. He'll wait till the green flag actually does come out. We're back underway, and it is a dead even start. In fact, a better start outside for Dietz, who leads at the line.
We'll have to see how this works out coming into turn number 1. All these drivers side by side still, and Dietz falling back just a little, falling to about door-to-door with that 82 machine of Stephen Hollingsworth. We'll have to see if the number 84 of John Theodore can push him back towards the front. They are falling back quickly, though, coming out of turn number 2, trying to get a little bit of ground back, going down the backstretch. It's a little bit of a stalemate right now, but now John Theodore pushing Josh Dietz back up to that lead car, hopefully. Not really getting connected as much as I'm sure Josh Dietz would have liked, but as long as they don't fall back anymore. That top line has really deteriorated right now. Gabriel Wood left up to dry. I believe that's 1 car behind him, but that won't really get to the back bumper anytime soon. I believe that's the number 06 of Jared Campbell jumps up, so Gabriel Wood going to be able to pull back up and get into that top line mix again. But number 42, Ryan Howard, still up in that top line as well, but that bottom line seems to have a lot more cars and maybe a little bit more dominant. Just as I say that, the number 82, Stephen Hollingsworth, going to jump in front of Josh Dietz. That was a interesting move by him, but nonetheless, it's going to get him a little bit to the front. We'll see who can win or run first at the line. Coming out of turn number 4, still neck and neck, coming to that first short shoot to the trial. We'll have to see who can prevail going to the start-finish line. The number 82, Stephen Hollingsworth, still has a little bit of a gap to him, and that's going to be Stephen Hollingsworth at the top of the scoring pile line, and he's going to jump down right in front of that number 19, Tyler Dalton.
Tyler Dalton is going to be the driver who ends up now bridesmaid in line, and that was a very nice move for Hollingsworth. He did not enjoy being in that second position down low, and that's about the second or third time we've so far seen Josh Dietz as the lead truck up on the outside of the racetrack have somebody go bottom to top on him. And obviously, he has not had an opportunity to really have an opportunity to lead this race per se. He's had his nose in front at the line, but I'm sure if he could, he'd love to clear that lead car down low and to be able to ride around on the yellow line for some time. And to give credit to where credit is due, I'll tell you what, John Theodore's doing everything he can, but that outside line has fallen apart a lot faster on this now, the second run of the race. Go to what we saw earlier. The 06 machine, I believe that is, of Gerald Campbell up top is going to be able to suck into this thing, and it'll be a 3-car group up top, but that is nowhere near the 6, 7, 8 cars that we saw right off for the start of this race earlier on. Look at the 82 machine again. Hollingsworth tries to go up and block, and we've already seen Dietz move somebody out of the way for just that move, and the 9 machine's getting tired of it, trying to get around him. Watch to see if he goes for that left rear again. We saw this happen again in his opening 10 laps, and I think that now that the 82 has somewhat established that position, the 9's going to have to try to work with him. So Hollingsworth trying to not become stalemate on the inside, and he's going to keep bouncing up and forth between the lines to try to stay active up front. But if you're Josh Dietz, it's frustrated, and you can tell that he's a little frustrated with how aggressive he was pushing the 82 right there.
Yeah, and he was definitely squared up with that left corner panel as he was previously with the different car going into turn number 3. But all is well right now. Going to try and push him to the front again and work with him. But until that point, these drivers got to make sure that they keep their heads on. Still got a long way to go, Evan.
Absolutely the case, and for the non-machine again now having been able to eradicate the 82 machine because Steve Hollingsworth is gone. We saw the 9 machine move somebody else out of the way, and now he has completely erased the 82 somehow, so hopefully Hollingsworth going to be able to get back in this one, but somebody who is not sitting around and moping is Gary Sexton, and once again, a truck is going to get up in front of Dietz, and 9 really aggressive on the shove, but it is going to work out in the end, and your pole sitter Gary Sexton now back to the race lead, and Josh Dietz still has not had an opportunity to go to P1 for himself, and every time somebody goes up on that nose, you have to say that whoever's doing that is a brave soul, because you can see the frustration in the 9. I'm sure he's yelling back at the 84 to Theodore, push, and down the back straightaway this time, so close, but so far, still unable to clear.
Yeah, and you can just see the tension level for that number 9 of Josh Dietz rise, as you were talking about, just giving those hard shoves to them, and just as we say that, Stephen Hollingsworth has a pole in his car behind the garage. So with that, that's going to bring Josh Dietz a little less headache going into this further race, and we'll have to see how this works out for him. Coming into turn number 1, we just see him pulling ahead ever so slightly, and then once he gets to the turn, just that bottom side really prevails and comes back. So, that frustration level obviously going more and more as the race wears on, and I can only imagine how much more longer he can take being bullied out of a race lead. So we'll have to watch for that from Josh Dietz, as John Theodore trying to do everything he can, but they need a little bit more cars on that top side, as you were talking about. It's really deteriorated from the second run, and I think it's just cars saying, hey, we got a long way to go, don't really want to cause another caution this early on in the race, and just keep on logging laps. And you see now going through the trial vote, Josh Dietz was really close to Gary Sexton, and now that time he leads at the line, but I'm sure he wants to be in front of that number 31 of Gary Sexton, as Evan was pointing out earlier. But you see now they're cheating that white line that Talladega had put down for these drivers, as I was talking about earlier. They're not really giving each other a lot of room. They're giving each other a lot of room on that bottom side or that top side, but these drivers are really just fighting hard. And now Josh Dietz to the lead.
Finally, after a lot of frustration, that I'm-issue to Josh Dietz has gotten to the race lead in this one, and good job for the 9 truck, as now he is in front of the 31 of Gary Sexton, and let's play musical chairs again. The 31's going to go to the outside of the racetrack. When you first make that move to the outside is your best opportunity to be able to clear the truck down low and get back down to the inside. And is Gary Sexton going to be able to do that? No, about a foot or so short. Getting around the 9, it is more difficult between corners 4 and 1, just because, again, that tri-oval kind of kills that momentum up top, acting nearly, again, as a corner over in and of itself. This back straightaway is your best opportunity. It took the 9 so many laps to just get cleared once, and even the 3rd time, Gary Sexton's gone up top and gotten the mission accomplished. He'll go right back to the race lead. Josh Dietz is rein up front to short. Littlefield trying to split the gap and barely squeezes in front of John Theodore.
Yeah, he's really had enough, and going to try and get to that front pack again through the tri-oval, but I don't think it'll happen. He needs a little bit more time, a little more laps. You obviously pointed out that tri-oval is a corner in itself, and we just saw how much it can impact a driver going into that and trying to do everything that he can in his willpower to get back to the front. But very good lining up, and it was just an amazing feat. And now he's just Josh has got to get in front of Gary again, and we'll see what kind of moves he does. We saw him split the gap. It was really close that time. John Theodore had a great presence of mind to really let off and let him up before anything terrible happened, like earlier on in the race. Going through the short chute again, still stalemate right now. They need another car up on that top side, but this is really the only 3 cars that are battling for that position. But this is really ramping up, going to lap 30, but about 3 laps from that.
And not all that far at this point, even just 10 laps away from already being halfway through this race from Talladega. The ongoing fight with the 9-missioner Josh Dietz trying to take on the 31 of Sexton, the 19 of Tyler Dalton and companies. Those drivers in a position where we talking about them traded off the race lead, winning at times, and on machine clear again. And once again, Dietz will slide down to the inside and go to the race lead. Going to be easy to forget about some of the names towards the backpack of this top 10 or so. How about Reese Baum, 17th to 6th? Somebody like a Gerald Campbell holding his zone right now at the moment. So Justin Dean, John Bignaka, even a William Kemp still in this lead group. Of course, if we continue to go back and forth for the race lead, like we'll see again, with John Theodore now leading at the line, and I would assume making a move down to the inside of the racetrack. Hasn't done it yet. And if he wanted to, way too much hesitation, and Dietz will maintain that spot down low on the inside. Trevin, I phrase it as that because he does not maintain the race lead. The last 2 times Josh Dietz has cleared the lead car on the inside of the racetrack and gone down low, he has not led that next time by the start-finish line.
Yeah, that just adds to the frustration factor, and maybe John Theodore was a little bit hesitant to go down because he knows what Josh Dietz is capable of, just give him a little corner shove. But all in all, we have a little bit more drivers on that top side, so it's about even right now, if that completely even. About 5 cars in a line with a little bit of a gap to that 6th car, but about even right now. That's going to be John Theodore at the line, so it's exactly as you said before. If Josh Dietz leads 1 lap, somebody else is going to lead another. So we have to watch for that, but right now it's just 2 great lines working together and really just fighting for each other. And now you see that number 31 of Gary Sexton. We're going 3 wide with Josh Dietz in the middle, going to get passed by a lot of cars now. Getting really close, 3 wide everywhere. Cars banking off each other a little bit, and we'll have to wait until we get settled down. Really close racing. John Theodore right in front of the number 19 of Tyler Dalton. Gets a little bit hairy right there. Josh Dietz going to pull back a little bit for that second position, pushing that number 31 of Gary Sexton. Gary now clear before that 84, and he's going to pull back to that race lead. And this looks like deja vu all over again.
I don't know how the Donna Josh Dietz is still in the top 10, let alone leading on the outside line of the racetrack. It was pretty much a mutiny there. They were tired of him, and he kind of got, tricked into going up to that middle of the outside line, and then finds himself dropping backwards. Complete chaos. 3-4 wide, still 4 wide, with Dustin Dean's 14 in the middle, and the 3 in the 80 machine for some reason not wanting to just work with him, trying to make their own line. And I think eventually they'll realize, oh, what are we doing? Let's get in line and figure this out. The 3 car's still stubborn. He can take that one-way ticket to the back of the pack if he doesn't want to make any friends. So we go back now down to 2x2 throughout the rest of the field. Big Naka's going to go the wrong direction, but look at Dietz. I mean, the age-old saying goes is, you need a dancing partner. We said it right out at the top of the racetrack, and this is where teammates and having, team cars that are around you could be so important, because you need some friends at a place like Talladega. The 9 does not seem to care about that, as he leads on the outside of the racetrack. The 89 machine trying to make something work. We're going to be a lap car 4 wide as we squeeze them tight. And the 89 machine of Jeremy Adams trying to go down to the middle, won't do it. Maybe he doesn't want to leave Matt Cucker up top. Anyhow, we're 3 wide for the race lead.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Matt Cucker was tired of being in that backpack, so he's just going to go to the front basically, and 3 wide, 2 abreast. And this is going to be a fight of teams right now, but we'll have to see how this works out. Who goes to that top line, and who stays middle, who stays low. Right now, the low pack is really having a lot of cars right here, but everybody else really working well together. That's the number 89, Jeremy Adams, right before the number 69 of Matt Cucker. So I have to see how this top line works out for them. That number, I believe that's the 31 of Gary Sexton, moving up to that middle lane. 66 of Gabriel Wood finally taking the lead for that first time, and Josh Dietz right behind Gabriel Wood on that bottom side, really trying to get to that front again. He's been fighting hard all night long, but coming to lap 33 right now, and we saw all these drivers hang back in the back of the pack, and Christian Peterson is still back there. He's hanging tough in position number 20, right where he started. So you have to wonder what happened between Matt Cucker, Christian Peterson, and some other people like Dustin Dean. What happened and why are they all separated that much? But right now, Josh Dietz tries to get that middle lane, gets a little bit of a tag from that 31 of Gary Sexton. Everybody stays forward, and that's going to give a little bit of help to Josh Dietz, and he's going to lead that middle pack. And Matt Cucker and Jeremy Adams going to try and get to that front as well. This is 3 wide action, Evan.
And the 9 machine just kind of returning the favor. When he got crossed up on the back straightaway a couple of laps ago, he was basically on the bottom. Everybody on the inside line was behind him, but we saw the car behind him in that 31 machine just kind of sidestep him, get to his left-hand side, make a lane below. That's how he ended up in middle. So the 9 says, okay, if we're making lanes, I'll make one in the middle of the racetrack, essentially push those cars on the top up to a 3rd lane, created his own, and that seems to be what it's going to take. And I will say, if we continue to race like this, it being only lap number 34 of 75, not all of these race trucks are going to make it to the end of tonight's Talladega 200. You can see a lot of pushing and shoving with the 89 and the 69 on the back bumper of Dietz. 2 cars going to be able to clear up top for one of the first times tonight. So Adams also has the opportunity to go down low if he so desires. But if you're Adams, that's a very tricky spot. You're all over the back of the 9 in front of you. The car behind you is all over the back of you. Very easy to kind of turn into a pinball there and get shot out of line. You can see them kind of wiggling as they make that transition down low. Very aggressive driving as the 89 tries to sneak low on Dietz and can't do it. They are not racing like we're not even halfway yet.
Yeah, during practice, these drivers were basically racing how they are right now, when one car went sideways and everybody else went with him. So this is making me really nervous watching all these drivers really battle back and forth so closely. And now the number 23 of Christian Peterson working that top lane with the number 22 of John Lyday. So we'll have to see how they work out in the mix here. that number 06 of Jared Campbell trying to get to that top lane as well, but right now Matt Cucker, excuse me, trying to get to that race lead as well. You know, these drivers are just really fighting so hard, knowing they have, you know, basically a little bit of this race to go. Already on lap 35, these laps are clicking off like really quickly, so we have to see how this works out. And Josh Dietz back to the race lead, still in the race lead. Matt Cucker still leading that top or middle line, and Christian Peterson leading that top line.
We'll see if they survive to get to our midway race break. That'll be in 2 laps from now. If we do, of course, we'll take a look at our iRacing midway race break, go top to bottom, run you down to what's been going on in the first half of this race. But Adams going to go to the outside. Cucker's there as well. The 06 machine of Gerald Campbell, who has very much been in the picture, top 5, but hasn't been able to get much better than P5. Is trying to get a little bit extra here. Adams with a quick hopscotch, trying to get around the number 9 machine, and he does successfully. Goes up top, goes down low, and Josh Dietz just trying to pile drive the back bumper of any solid object that's in front of him. He's hitting.
Yeah, and he's just been doing that all night long. Jeremy Adams now fighting with Matt Cucker, and Christian Peterson 1 car back. In between him and Matt Cucker is Jared Campbell, so see how this works out for them as well. Going through the backstretch right now in lap 37. Matt Cucker now possibly clear. Maybe wants to wait a little bit longer because he knows that bottom line can come back through the turn, and that's exactly what happened. So he has to wait another lap for another turn for that to happen for him. But I don't know if he's going to want to stay up top with Christian Peterson, wait till they're both clear, or every man for himself, basically. But we'll have to see how this works out because, obviously 1 car right in front of him. So now Matt Cucker leads at the line. That's going to be Jeremy Adams in second now, but fighting back on that bottom side. So we can really see, Evan, this top line prevail going down the straightaway, and then the bottom line prevail going down into the turn. So, really great racing so far, very balanced, and, this is going to be a great race all night long. As we saw a couple cars dive down in the pit road and near shot right there, but right now, these leaders are not pitting.
And the guys up front still holding strong. A small group has come down to the pit lane. Maybe we will see more takers this time. Looks like a majority of the cars up front going to stay out, so let's take this opportunity. Halfway home from Talladega, let's look at our iRacing, the midway race break brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and more. Again, the running order is going to shuffle up in a minute here when these cars pit, but for the moment, here is how it looks. Matt Cucker scored as your race leader the last time by, with Jerry Adams, Gerald Campbell, Josh Dietz, and Christian Peterson in the top 5. John Lade, P6, Gabe has scored 7th, Reese Baum in 8th, Kyle Lowry 9th, and pole sitter Gary Sexton rounded out the top 10.
John McNaughton coming from 33rd to 11th right now. John Theodore, P12. P13 will go to Matthew Murphy. Ryan Howard, P14. Devin Morgan, P15. Dustin Dean, P16. Kyle Manger, P17. Seth the Merchant, P18. P19 will go to Paul Henley. And P20 will go to Derek Paulson.
Jeremy Watkins going to be 21st spot. Todd Novosad 22nd. This is now the group of drivers who had pitted 2 laps ago. So 22nd Novosad all the way through 26th position. That includes Harley, Kemp, and Dalton with 45 seconds off for the race lead. They have already pitted. Drivers 1 lap down. 27th and 28th going to be James Carhula, Sean Cross. 29th, Bo Gibbons. And 30th is Stephen Hollingsworth, just to put a bow on this thing here. Rest of the drivers out of this race. 31st, Nicholas Caldwell. 32nd, Kenny Lowry, Randy Oakham, 33rd, and Blake Griffin in 34th position. That's going to be a look top to bottom at your iRacing the midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And really wanted to quickly run you through those running positions, Trevor, because I expected when we saw that first group come down pit road, subsequently we'd see a second group, if not everybody else, either immediately come back down or wait a lap or 2 and come in. So far, not the case now. It's been 4 laps since those first cars pulled off. We're now working lap number 41 to 75, past the halfway point as we start to count down towards the end of tonight's Talladega 200, and the group up front holding strong, not yet wanting to commit to pit road.
Yeah, and they're about to catch up to them as well, so Maybe it's you know, a little bit of a strategy that they had going on. Maybe saying, you know, we can't catch them going this way, so let's try and play the strategy game. But nonetheless, right now you got Jeremy Adams up in front. Now Christian Peterson and Matt Tucker hooking up on that top side, so we're have to see how this works out for them as well going into turn, actually the tri-oval. I don't know if you can classify it as a certain turn, but that tri-oval right before that start finish line, and gonna work hard to get that them two trucks up in front of Jeremy Adams. And you know, Josh Deeds still seeing that one car right in front of him that he's been seeing all night long. And you know, now Gary Sexton as well, really falling back on that top side, and Gabriel Wood third place in line on that bottom side. But you know, great mix of drivers in this front pack and really working well together to make this a great race, as Jeremy Adams going to hop back on that top side, trying to give a little bit more momentum to the top side, and Josh Deeds going to gladly take that position away, but we'll see how long that lasts.
And something else to look at is, as you see Tadana Deeds down low, and even a little bit of 3-wide with Gary Sexton sticking his head way out to the outside, is just where are we in the pit cycle here? Because we had that early caution flag at about lap 11. We got back green at lap 16. But the first truck started coming down pit road shy of lap 40. So at best, that was a 25-lap run. We're at right now about 32 laps still to go in this race. So if that first group of trucks, you know, Harnan, Beverly, Dalton, DeCamp, and Novosad, if they could make it on fuel, then it's a pretty big, you know, window as far as these guys could make it easily. If they're not sure of that, they're going to try to split this in half, go about 30 or so laps, and then pit, which would be 3 or 4 laps away from now when you look back to the restart. So if you can make that number, split the run in half, that's the conventional wisdom. If you can't even make it that number, then maybe these drivers hoping for a yellow, stretching something out. The drivers who already pitted have an idea in their mind maybe of what the fuel number is going to be. But as we see things continue to shuffle around up front, most times I would say if you're funny with each other, you're not going to be as fast driven. But that lead group of cars continues, as you said, to catch the group of trucks that already pitted, just because at Talladega it is all about strength in numbers. A draft with 15 trucks is so much better than a draft with 3 trucks, no matter how disciplined you are being. And even as we see a couple of these trucks now break up and try to swap out, in fact, Harnan, Beverly, and Dalton are pulling away from William Kemp and Todd Novosad, who have fallen off for the back end. The longer they're out there, they're going to be caught eventually. The question is, are they going to be caught while those leaders are still out there, or are pit stops for the lead group going to come before we reach that point? You see 2 of them getting passed right now. Those are the 2 trucks that got left hanging out of the back end of the boat. The 3 trucks that you're trying to catch up to would be a good way to kind of gauge just how the speed comparison is between the 2 groups.
Yeah, and you know, pitting here at the Superspeedway, you know, it's a long track, and it's going to be hard to fight back towards the front, but you know, these drivers are really doing a great job holding themselves up, and now Josh Dietz and Jeremy Adams really pulling away from these drivers. Those 2 lap cars really shuffled everything up, and you know, you could see that top line start, you know, falling apart going into that turn number 1 and across the finish line a little bit. So you know, falling back quite a bit now through the tri-oval, and we'll have to see if these drivers can work together to get back up to that front position. But for now, obviously a pretty good gap, about 0.6 seconds gap back from second to third. That's Matt Tucker in third. Christian Peterson trying to work as well. So now Matt Tucker's going to jump in front of Gabriel Wood, see what happens there. Maybe giving a little bit of air to Christian Peterson, and now he's going to jump back up in front, and now passing those cars that had just pitted and making it an easy pass on them. And now we have quite a few cars trying to get around, and we'll have to see how this works out. 2 or 3 wide racing could be at stake here, Evan.
Yeah, we'll see if it splits things up, separates anything at all. You're going to see more 2-3 wide action as they pass the lapped cars. It doesn't really count with a slow truck down on the inside of the racetrack simply getting passed. You see the difference in how well you can work together. Look at the 14 machine up on the, not the 14, sorry, but bright yellow number 4, I should say. Not a battle for position. Perhula's a lap down. The 13 Machine a lap down as well. But Matt Cooker is for position, so we have a battle for the race lead with the cars on the inside of the racetrack and the very outside of the racetrack. The 2 trucks in the middle are not for position. That is lap traffic, and I think that third line is really going to hurt those cars way up top. We'll see if it does, but I think they're going to end up falling in line behind those 2 lap trucks and therefore not being able to take the race away from Josh Dietz, who may be saved because of that.
Yeah, very interesting that they got that going on in that middle lane, and now Matt Cooker, I don't know why I can call him Matthew, but Matt Cooker up on that top line trying to get down to the bottom. A little bit of, oh no, there they go on the back, and there's a big wreck. All many cars involved, and I believe that all started with the number 23 and another car. That's going to be the 19. Gets tagged a little bit by Gabriel Wood, and then it just goes mayhem from there. So that's Matt Cooker involved, Christian Peterson, Seth the Merchant, a lot of cars involved in this one.
And there's a lot to break down. It starts with Cooker, who tries to squeeze in front of the 23 of Peterson, and I thought that what that had done was kind of checked up the line, but it really didn't look like that. It almost looked like that 66 of Gabe Wood was just trying to see what the heck was going on in front of him, stuck his nose out to the left-hand side to see a little bit. He is the one who then tagged 19 of Tyler Dalton. Those trucks went up. Sent the Merchant involved. Cooker also going to get tagged again, and well, I said that we weren't going to make it to the end if everybody wanted a race like that, and that'll be your case in point there, because a big mess in turn 1 for the second yellow of the night.
Yeah, and it's just got to be heartbreak for all these drivers that were running up so close, and then it just gets a little bit of tagged and really just goes around. It seems for the most part it was just a few cars, but a lot of great avoidance from the majority of that pack behind him. It was about a 5-car battle that was going on that really got involved right there. So at least 5 cars were involved, and we'll have to see where this shuffles everybody out. But right now, probably people can relax and take a breather and, think about their pit and how they're going to do it.
If there are any questions on fuel, now's the time to be able to make it. We know that you can go 25 laps to the end of this race. So your race leader should be coming down pit road, but what about that group at the back that had already pitted? Are they going to stay out now, assume the race lead, even if that means a little bit of a tire deficit? Do they need to come in for fuel, or do they just simply decide to come into the pit lane to get fresh tires maybe? Josh Dietz has to come down, no doubt. Expect everybody, top 10, top 15 or so, to pit. But you got to wait till you get a little bit deeper back in the pack before you start to get to those drivers who we think might stay out. Murphy's down pit road. So is Dean. Watkins going to stay out. Paulson's down. Campbell is down. So it looks like a majority of the trucks will decide to pit, with a lot of guys staying out simply looking for waiver outs.
Yeah, and now you see just a lot of drivers coming in, and the 49 right in front of the number 9 of Josh Dietz kind of got a little bit too far left of his pit box, and he's going to have a little struggle going there, but he's going to have to find his way around, and Josh Dietz will take that lead going in. But this lends the point to you got to be perfect on and off the track. So the 49 is going to have a little bit of a working up to do. That number 49, Kyle Lowry, is who that was.
Well, he was doing pretty good too as far as maintaining his position, but I mean, that was really bad. Overshot it, backed it up, overshot it again, backed it up. And again, under green flag conditions, 3 seconds sucks, but it might cost you a spot or two. But under yellow, it's just going to put you so far back in the pack. And at this point in the race now, where assuming, and I believe that's the case, that everybody from this point on is going to be able to be good to go to the end of this race, that does not put you in a very friendly position.
Yeah, it's just really hard once you get to the later parts of the race, and that you got to make up positions, and you get further back in the pack now, and just one little small error that could cost you many positions. And you're talking about those self-inflicted errors rather than the conventional penalties, and we could see that really affecting him right now. Currently scored at P number 13, but we'll see how he shuffles out throughout the rest of this.
And as everything else cycles through, wave round's going to go on by. Your race leader should be that number 9 to get Jeremy Watkins when it is all said and done. Working on our second yellow flag tonight, though, what we'll do is take a quick opportunity to take a caution flag of our own. We'll step aside and keep it LSR TV non-stop. When we come back, a restart with less than 25 laps to go from Talladega. You're watching the Championship Esports Association American Pool Supply Truck Series on your home for sim racing into iRacing Live. And back live from the Talladega Superspeedway. Lights out on top of the iRacing.com pace car race start coming up with 23 laps to go in tonight's Talladega 200. Happy that you're with us, though, and you're home for sim racing at iRacing Live. Evan Pasoko, Trevor Ballarama upstairs with you for race 11 of this American Pool Supply Truck Series. And I want to give a shout out, as always, to our friends over at American Pool Supply, because coverage of the CEA American Pool Supply Truck Series is brought to you by American Pool Supply, a wholesale distributor of pool and landscaping products. We serve pool maintenance, resorts, and apartment complexes and HOAs in the greater Las Vegas area. For more information, you can visit them on Facebook at American Pool Supply LV. So big thanks to them, as always, for making the action possible. Trevor, in action, there has been plenty of such here tonight. As all of the wave around trucks have passed up, we get set for restart. Josh Dietz, with the driver leading this race as we get set for what is pretty much a 23-lap run to the end, but something tells me this will not be the final restart of the night, simply based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah, you know, obviously cautions do breed cautions, and especially at a track that can run 3 wide, even 4 wide. Might get a little dicey coming to the later parts of this race, but nonetheless, it's going to play out to be a great finish for you fans at home, and all you dads out there. Happy Father's Day, and thank you for spending your Sunday night with us. But we're trying to put on a great show for you tonight, and coming down to the final parts of this race.
We'll see what happens as the pace car heads in this time. And Josh Dietz, who again, maybe frenemies with the drivers all in and around him, are in a little bit of a difficult position. He goes right away this time. Not that big weight like we saw last time. And again, with John Theodore so far out of the back bumper, I don't think this works out well for Dietz unless that happens. Adams, instead of taking it to him on the outside, tucks in line behind. That'll bail out the 9 car.
Yeah, absolutely. And then 25 of Kyle Manger going to try and work with the 22 of John Lyday, who's really worked himself up from P29, now P4th clocked on the scoring pylon. See if he can make that P1 by the end of the night, but it's going to have a lot of work to do. As we've seen, it's been a heartache to get to that front position all night long, especially for Josh Dietz. And it's not going to easily get in front of Josh Dietz, as we've seen the way that he's performed tonight, really defending that position as much as he can. But Jeremy Adams is going to try and push him to the front again. Kyle Manger up on that top side, as you see right now, and really going to have to get more cars on that top side if they want something to happen a little bit more. But for right now, it's a little bit of a stalemate going through the tri-oval, and across the finish line, it's going to be Kyle Manger, I believe, yes, in the lead position, but we'll see how long that holds on, and if he can clear that number 9 of Josh Dietz on that bottom side. The number 84 of John Theodore has been up in the mix all night long. The number 31 of Gary Sexton as well, looking a little bit further back, but Christian Peterson's going to have to work a little bit further. He was up in that top spot during that last stint, but that wreck really hindered him. And speaking of that wreck last time, Gabriel Wood has pulled his car behind the wall, so that would be the end of him. And Bo Gibbons and Kenny Lowry previously pulled their cars behind the wall that last stint. So cars retiring, obviously, and cars obviously bad on the track for position, Evan.
And we'll see, I think that was the first time tonight that 25, Kyle Manger's been able to get all the way out front. John Lottie behind him, somebody else who has had quite an up and down night for the 22 car and taking advantage of the way all of that, the pit stops and the caution flag worked out for him. Remember, he went 29th to 7th on a mistake because he missed pit road on the first yellow flag cycle, and to come back down, drop all the way to the back. So for a driver that has gone back to front now basically twice, he has an opportunity to fight for the race win here tonight from Dega. We'll see if he and the 25 want to work together. Again, strength in numbers up top. Definitely a lot more trucks up there on this restart than what we saw on the last restart. Nobody really, I think, in the mood to just jump in line and ride around. Top 10, you got a shot for the race win. I think you got to go for the top 17 cars. Last time by, all still scored within 1 second here. Race leader Josh Dietz.
Yeah, and you got to make sure you stay up inside that top pack that is connected to that race leader if you want a shot at this, because things can change in a hurry, as we've seen with plate track racing before, and now it's just getting more and more exciting, coming to about 15 to go in a few laps time. But these drivers have to have a real sense of urgency now, knowing that they had less than 100 laps to get something done tonight here, but as well as a longer track. But you really only have one spot you can get a lot of speed at for that top side, and that is obviously that back stretch. And if you're on that bottom side, you have about 2.5 turns that really benefit you. Right now, the 25 gets a little bit of loose right in front of the 22 of John Lyday. That was a great save by all of them, and it's impressive how they didn't wreck, Evan.
They were pretty close. We've seen this a couple of times tonight, and Jeremy Adams not sitting around and admiring the newfound 3-wide. He wants to get in on the action, jumps up top, and now he'll try to use this as an opportunity to go to the race lead in this one. 3 trucks up top, everybody else still packed into the bottom in the middle, as maybe we now have an opportunity to kind of recatch our breaths per se, but another close call. We've gotten away with a few of those so far here tonight, opportunities where things could have really gotten out of hand, and instead, Well, now we're 3 wide up top. What do you do if you're on the outside? The 22, the 42, but the 3 trucks. Should they stay up on the outside of the racetrack? No. They're going to secede, drop down to the bottom, and we go back to 2x2 battle. For the race lead is on, though, as Adams looking to lead at the line.
They're not going to stay 2x2 for long, Evan. It's only a matter of time before that third line really hooks up and tries something. And we saw that 3 wide try to happen between the 22, I believe that was the 42, and the 3. But just not enough cars up there, and a lot of other cars really dominating that bottom side. But really great job by Kyle Manger as the 84 John Theodore goes up, and Christian Peterson with a great save going down the backstretch, Evan.
Belt wrecked him again, and Christian Peterson hangs on. He did cut off the 22 machine, and he about took himself out in the process, but was able to catch it, save it. And that's the second time in his many laps, so we have had a big scare towards the front of the field. Somehow this race is still green. Now up front again, the 84 machine of Theodore tries to throw a block on Jeremy Adams, but Adams has the help on his side. The 25 of Manger up there. Now here comes Sexton to the middle. 3 wide in a fight for the race lead. Everybody passing Josh Dietz down low. He'll end up at about 4th or so before this one's done. Sexton in the 31 can't get down, so he'll get stuck behind Adams. And an odd machine just barely kept the nose there to prevent Sexton from coming down. And now it'll be Dietz working with Theodore on the inside of the racetrack. 3 cars up top in the middle, threw it on low and more contact as Sexton came down. These guys are trying their best to wreck, and so far nothing.
This is getting more and more exciting as the night wears on. There's no way that they can race like this all the way to the checkered flag. John Theodore is going to move up to that middle side. Kyle Manger still on that top side, leading that top side. Matthew Murphy as well on that top side. 2 wide by 3. 1 car moves up. The one behind it will follow, obviously. So, these guys are moving around like worms right there, trying not to get into each other. But Josh Dietz obviously very frustrated with cars in front of him, and that third line is going to really deteriorate, and John Theodore is going to still lead that top side with Gary Sexton right behind him, Kyle Manger, then Christian Peterson, who had a fantastic save. Jeremy Adams is going to move up to that top side and try to block John Theodore from taking away that race lead from him. But now, once it groups up and really gets packed together, that's when that third line comes into play. But right now, Gary Sexton's going to get hung out to dry on that top side and move back a little bit of positions, try and squeeze in front of that number 42. Does it without problem. Really great racing through all this. John Theodore's going to see if anybody can go with him to that third lane. I don't think it's going to happen. He's really going to need somebody else up there if he wants something to happen. He's just going to get freight trained on that bottom 2 lanes, and is going to really move back to the back of the pack.
He gets shuffled to the back of the pack, and that's how quickly the tides can change here from Talladega. So as the 84 machine slides off of the outside, we try to kind of regroup ourselves and figure out where we sit now in the battle for the race lead. And to be fair, Theodore's doing everything he can up top to stay there. The 22 of John Lade is the one working with him. And they might be able to hold some ground there, but you need more than 2 trucks up on the outside of the racetrack if you want to be able to go all the way, back to the front of the field, which is where Jerry Adams is once more. Big slide, that 3 of John McNaughton, second truck in line on the inside of the racetrack, took a big slide as he headed off and into the tri-oval. And these trucks I talked about earlier in this race, Trevor, we've been talking a lot about them as a caution flag comes out. That kind of ties in with what I was saying. We've been talking about how easy they are to handle, but when you drive them like they have been, you just can only do so much. And finally, we have an accident off of a crazy run, and it was John Lade up top who just went around.
Yeah, and once you get, again, grouped up in a pack like that, it's going to get really close to tight racing, and, you just saw how that happened right there, and obviously hard impact to that outside wall. I believe that was Nat Cucker that he caught up as well. I'm not too sure. Yes, as if he cut to him, he's got a really, really messed up car. He's trying to limp it back to the pit lane, and you just see all that smoke billowing out of the back of his car. Really unfortunate night for him.
They tried it many times, and finally we got the accident. And maybe I was going to say maybe it'll give the drivers an opportunity to settle things down, but you look at the numbers now, it'll be a restart with less than 10 laps to go, and The, the beauty that is Talladega Super Speedway. Only third caution flag that we have seen here on the night. And by the time we go back green, we should have reigned in around 20 trucks of the 34 who started still on the lead lap. So, average amount of attrition, I guess you could say, for a super speedway race, but man, has it been crazy. And I told you I loved seeing the trucks on a plate track, and I hope you could understand why now, because I think one of, if not the best car track combos right now on the iRacing service, to be fair, has been for quite some time. And these drivers are not acting like they like each other. I mean, we talked about teamwork, and we're not really seeing any of that finesse and none of that coordination. It's just go in there and drive it as hard as you can, and listen, it's great for us.
Yeah, no doubt. Driving it like they stole it, as people like to say. So, they were obviously, as you're pointing out, trying to wreck, and it just happened finally. And I think we're going to get about maybe 10 laps to go at this restart. So this is just going to get more and more exciting as the laps wear on. And I feel like that was just a taste of what we're going to see throughout these last few laps.
And I expect the lights to stay on top of the pace car, and they do. So it seems like the yellow flag cycles tonight have had that, one additional lap or so, which takes an extra lap out of the race, and I think makes the drivers a little bit more jittery by the time they, come around to an opportunity to go back green, as you've been sitting under yellow for an extra 2 minutes or so, which is about the time that it takes to get around to the Talladega Super Speedway. So obviously no takers on pit road for scheduled stops this time, though, and Matt Cucker just lost the engine, Trevor. We're talking about him trying to get that damaged truck back to pit road. He just lost that engine as he was coming to the pit lane. You can see all of the smoke coming out of the back of that truck, and he'll get it down to pit speed and try to get back to the box. So hopefully for Cucker, he maybe has an opportunity to possibly get a quick fix repair on that one, although unfortunately for him, not an option in this CEA truck series. So all that smoke pouring out, he's going to have to sit there and fix it. I don't even think he's going to bother at that point. I think that truck pretty much done for the night.
Yeah, once you saw that smoke come out of the back of it, I believe that was the end of the road for him. But very unfortunate for him, and obviously pacing, and these drivers are going to have a lot to think about throughout these last couple pace laps, going back to the green flag, and think about what can we possibly do to make it better for us. And it's just going to be hard to see these drivers really go back to the checkered flag and with green flag conditions with the way that they've been running. But nonetheless, it's just going to be a great race altogether.
And one thing that I'm certain we're going to be keeping our eyes on here coming to the finish is that finish line. We've seen some fantastic intervals here, and a part of why we can give you those looks is our friends over at Joel Real Timing, presenting sponsor of our coverage. The CEA American Pool Supply Truck Series at LSR TV is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSR TV. Whether you spend your time on the sim, behind the wheel, on the pit bots, or from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can start with a basic free download by the full pro version today. More information and all of that, log on to joel-real-timing.com. Make sure that you get your fix today. Again, big thanks to everybody at Joel Real Timing for being the official timing partner of us here at LSR TV. Lights still on top of the pace car. Somebody who is not with us here this evening, Kyle Barnes, not in the team speak and all of that, hanging out with his youth group watching the race. So I want to give a shout out to everybody over there and hoping that they enjoy these final 10 laps or so, Trevin, which is no longer going to be a 9 or so lap to go restart. I think by the time we get around next time by, we'll end up closer to 8 laps or so, depending on just when this thing winds down. But I mean, if you're Dietz, if you're Major, if you're Peterson, you got to be hating this. Last time around was a 2-minute and 30-second pace lap, and you just want to go, and this yellow's going to end up being like a 9 or 10-minute pause in the action by the time we go back green. It's got to be excruciating for the guys who have been wound up all night.
Yeah, and the longer these things go on, the more they're going to be thinking, and overthinking can easily be a factor into these kinds of racing. Thinking, what are we going to do? How are we going to get to that front? And obviously 19th position. James Kragula is going to obviously try his hardest to get to that front position, but you know, it's hard to see that happening. But you never know. It's plate track racing, and obviously we do have a green-white checkered finish if we need it, Evan. So that's also a big factor into this race. And you know, you gotta love this kind of racing here. And you know, you pointed out this could be the best car track combo. I would have to agree with you, but you know, this is just going to lend itself to a fantastic finish here tonight. And these fans are really going to enjoy this finish.
The question is, when does the finish come? We're just kind of sitting around kicking cans and waiting. Jeremy Adams, Kyle Manger, Josh Dietz, Christian Peterson, John McNaughey, your top 5. Pole sitter Gary Sexton in 6th with Kyle Lowry 7th, Ryan Howard in 8th, Dustin D 9th, John Theodore in 10th. It is just a little bit more than half of the 19 trucks that are going to be left on the lead lap. I had guesstimated that it might have ended up being about 20 or so by the time we got back green. Looks like it is going to be 19 trucks left on the lead lap for the ensuing restart. This time by, we will take 10 laps left to go from Talladega. How many laps more until the restart? Looks like the 25 is going to pull up to the outside of the racetrack. The lights on top are finally out, which means we are getting set to go back green.
And, you know, a lot of trucks have been in contention this whole entire night long. Obviously, Josh Dietz has been really up inside this top pack for 66 laps of this race. We'll see if he can hold on for all 75. But, Evan, who do you think is going to pull this one out of the hat?
Whoever doesn't wreck, and I think there's going to be a lot less cars that are left than those who wreck.
I'd have to agree with you on that one. Talladega is really survival of the fittest here, obviously showing tonight as well. You know, we had a little bit of a great green flag run, and you know, really saw that spread out, and you know, cars took themselves down pit lane. Maybe a few more laps before that wreck, or if that wreck didn't happen, is what I'm trying to say. And a few more laps after, maybe we would have saw these leaders come down pit road and saw some really stuff shake up. But for right now, we have the lights out on the pace car, and less than 10 laps to go. The action will definitely be ramping up with Jeremy Adams and Kyle Manger, your front two. Christian Peterson as well right behind him, and Josh Dietz has been fighting hard all night long, really giving the bumper to quite a few cars, showing him that he is right behind them and trying to give you know, everything that he can. And Gary Sexton has fallen all the way back to 6th place, so Evan's going to have to crawl out of a little bit of a hole if he wants to get it happened. And I believe we're going to see a 3-wide battle going on for the rest of this race. You know, obviously these cars got to get a different kind of mojo happening, and that's really the only way they're going to get to that front position from all the way from the back.
And is this going to be the final restart, or do we go through another long caution flag cycle and maybe go back green a little bit later on? We do have the opportunity, if it so does present itself, for a possible green-white checkered finish if the yellow flag comes out with inside of the final 4 laps to go in this race. Here's to hoping, though, it is going to be just a straight 9-lap run to the end from Lincoln, Alabama. The pace car down and in, and a field once again in the hands of the 89 of Jeremy Adams. Can go whenever he wants, but he needs somebody to go with him. He's waiting on the 9 to get up on the back bumper. They'll go all the way to the restart box, but we go back green. Late race restart from Dega, less than 10 laps to go.
Jeremy Adams doing a great job keeping his ground in the front. Kyle Manger trying to work it up with Christian Peterson, and Gary Sexton, 42 of Ryan Howard, trying to get there as well. But right now, Jeremy Adams pulling away a little bit. We'll see how they fight back on that top side. Josh Dietz gets a little bit loose on that bottom side. See him poking out for some air, and now Kyle Manger's really hooking up that top side with Christian Peterson pulling away a little bit, going down the back stretch. We'll see how they come into turn number 3 with Jeremy Adams right on their door. Really stalemated, and you know, you see that bottom side again really prevail going through the turn, and we'll see how they come out of the turn onto that short chute with John Theodore trying to get there as well, a little bit further back. And number 3 has really got to hook up with Dietz. That's Mignaka in the number 3 machine. Got to hook up with Dietz if they want to, you know, try to get to that front position again.
And that's the objective. It is Manger leading at the start-finish line. But again, not able to clear down low. Might not be the worst of things, though. Maybe you stay up top, the inside again. is kind of a revolving door. You go down to the inside, somebody else maybe comes up, passes you up top. So if I'm Kyle Manger, maybe leading at the line, but just staying up top might be the best idea for me. That's why if you're third or fourth in the lineup at the outside of the racetrack, if you're a Sexton or if you're a Howard, you might want to go 3 wide. There's already a lane coming there, led by Ricky Harden. But the 2 machine to Dwight Beverly wants to get in on the front as well, so some support coming for a third lane. Way up top is, look at the 14. Dustin Dean making his own lane. I don't know how well that's going to work out, though, because it's going to get awfully tight down to turn 1 with the 14. Half of those there, half of those not. And he'll end up pushing Ryan Howard out. Can't do it. 4 wide on contact. Still bouncing off each other. And I think we're okay.
I don't know how they just did it. I had the weirdest face I could feel watching that whole entire thing, hoping that they didn't wreck. But that was a great save by everyone involved. And Kyle Manger still going to lead that top side. And now you see that third lane coming in. That's the number 42 leading. The 09 is going to try and jump up in front of it, but sees it deteriorating, so he jumps back down in front of the number 82 machine of, I can't really see a name. I think that's a lap down car, I believe, because I do not see it on the ticker. And now the number, I couldn't see who that was, but John Theodore just spun someone down into the inside grass. And we stay green. Josh Dietz gonna hop in front of Kyle Manger in the meantime. Lap 70, and it's getting really exciting.
Lowry was the one that went down through the grass. You can see the grass go flying as the orange number 40 Honda machine ended up down there. He spun it out, but he spun it out off of the apron, or onto the apron, I should say, off of the racetrack. So that is why we are still green and no caution. And now our caution flag is gonna fly. And it's a different wreck at the back straightaway. Dwight Beverly around, and so is Ricky Harden. Take a look at this one in a moment. The 13 machine and the 2 are the ones who got together. And well, the second look will show you that it's, again, just a little bit of miscommunication, and you don't line up the bumpers in these trucks. They are a lot more forgiving than a B and an A car. I promise I'm not lying to you, but that 2 machine, you saw it live very late where it looked like the 2 was coming across the screen, but that replay angle will show you it was the 13 who got into him in the right rear quarter panel that upset the 2 machine, hooked him around into the wall. He bounced back down. That is when he tagged the number 13 truck, and those are the 2 who ended up spinning towards the back of the pack there. I don't think anybody else really got involved. A couple of high-speed flybys for the trucks behind there, but other than that, 2 trucks, that'll do it. Caution flying, coming to 5 laps to go, and this should set us up either way for something equivalent to a green-white checker or a 1-lap shootout. The question is, though, will it be in regulation, or do we have to go to overtime?
Yeah, obviously we're talking about, can these drivers really hold on for this last few laps, and you just get a little bit of a bad shove and bad positioning, and round you go. So you can just see the sense of urgency in these guys with the amount of effort that they're putting into this race. It's a plate track, and you got to keep that pedal to the metal and make sure that you're there to contend at the end of this thing. And a big hit for both of these cars, and they're gonna have to fall back far in the pack. And this leaves Josh Dietz out in front and Kyle Manger now in second, Jeremy Adams in third, Christian Peterson in fourth, and Gary Sexton in fifth. So, this is going to shape out to be a great finish again. And, you were saying how many laps are we going to have to go? We have to continue to watch that pace car and watch those lights and see how many laps we're going to have to get to the end of this thing. But, either way, it's going to be a lap or 2. And, you're made a great point on if it's going to be regulation or overtime. So you guys could get some free racing here out of Talladega Superspeedway, as people usually do, because it's just that kind of track, and it's just that much of an exciting track, and these drivers really work hard to get themselves to the front, and maybe a little bit too hard, and it is what it is. But either way, an exciting race.
It's almost like when we tell you at the start of the race, okay, 200 miles, we should kind of, to be fair, put an asterisk next to it and say it is Talladega. Let's be realistic here. You might have some late race restarts. If we have an opportunity to go back green before the last lap and have a yellow, we will have an opportunity to go green to white checker into overtime. I believe, though, if this restart will come with 2 or 1 lap left to go, then that will count as the green and white checker. The one thing that I can promise you, though, is it's not going to happen this time by, because the lights are still on top of the pace car. So what we'll do is step aside one more time. Keep it LSR TV non-stop. Nobody up front coming down pit road. Just some at the very back with damage. And Josh Dietz has fought tooth and nail to be in this position. When we come back, we will see if he can close it out. You're watching LSR TV's coverage of the Talladega 200, part of the 2018 Championship Esports Association American Pool Supply Truck Series. The race to the end when we come back on your home for sim racing.
Team racing allows multiple iRacing members to team up and race together, just like in real-world endurance series. Teammates can share driving duties, spot for one another, or be a crew chief. Team racing is free both to join a team and to create one. Each teammate races on his or her own computer from wherever they want to. Your teammates can be anywhere in the world, and changing drivers mid-race is as easy as a click of a button. iRacing features team endurance events ranging from just a couple of hours to 24 hours in length. So, if you fancy taking part in an iRacing endurance race in the future, you can learn more about team racing on the teams page on the member website.
And welcome back live into the Talladega Superspeedway, where survey says 1 lap to go restart. In tonight's Talladega 200 LSR TV's coverage of the American Pool Supply Truck Series, and it all leads up to this. Lap 74 of 75 in the works now. When we come out of turn number 4 next, the pace car will go down, and assuming, Trevin, all the trucks, not even all the trucks, in fact, if just the leader can get to the start-finish line and take the white flag, this will be a 2.66 miles shootout. If we wreck before then, it will be a green-white checker in overtime. So that's the scene. You've got 19 trucks at a lead lap fighting for it, but the inside and out have been very even on these restarts so far this evening, and I don't think Dietz or the 25 Major have any sort of significant advantage or disadvantage over one another. Pretty much a toss-up here. Outside might be a little bit stronger, getting up to speed into the corner, and that might be the difference maker. We'll have to see if the 89 stays on the back bumper of the 9 or if he splits off and we end up with 5 lanes going down the back.
It's going to be a tight race, that's for sure. You know, a lot of these drivers are really antsy to get back racing. I believe that was possibly a 10-lap caution period, or a 10-minute caution period. It felt like 10 laps, yeah, that's for sure. And, you know, these drivers are really going to get excited to go back racing, and we'll see when Josh Dietz decides to go. The past few restarts, they've been waiting for the green flag, Evan, so we'll see.
Pace car in this time, and when the pace car dives down, the 9 machine Josh Dietz going to restart this race whenever he wants, and he is going to go early. American Ethanol green flag back in the air as we look to take 1 lap to go, and what a start for Josh Dietz and the 89 of Jerry Adams, clear of everybody else, still 1 to go.
That was a fantastic restart. That's exactly what you got to do going into the last lap. Got to make sure you assert your dominance into that front position. And now Kyle Major's going to have to fight hard to get it. Jeremy Adams blocking that number 25. So close.
Oh, there they go.
Oh,
1, 2, 3, 4 trucks going to rock down the back. It's Sexton now in a drag race with John Mignacca, the 5th and 6th place trucks. Gonna fight over this one, and Anana Mignacca gets clear. The 42 machine of Ryan Howard left out to dry on his own. How about a drag race for the final time at turn 4? Mignacca gonna hold the yellow line. The 31 of Sexton looks high. The 31 of Sexton looks low, but he cannot get the positioning. And the 3 of John Mignacca, right place, right time, wide enough, and a winner from Talladega, should say. And the 42 of Ryan Howard ended up being the 3rd wheel in that one. Almost pushed Sexton to the inside, Trevin, but Mignacca just enough blocks to outlast the push to the end.
What a finish by all these guys, and in true Talladega fashion, we had a little bit of a wrecking across the line. That was about 5 cars involved. John Theodore, James Krahula, and that number 14 really got junked, and then the 87, and I believe that was the 06, got involved as well. But nonetheless, a great finish and a heartbreak for Josh Dietz, to say the least.
Tough break for sure, and after the way that the race had gone for him, he had to fight so hard, but you know, Adams trying to go high, the 9 blocked, and the 89, it looks bad because, you know, it looks like he just goes there and wrecks the 9, but the 89 didn't really have the inside line turn, but at the same time, he was on the inside of the 9, and Josh Dietz is the one who tries to block and wrecks himself. If the 25 and the 23 hadn't have gone low, it would have just been those 2 trucks taking each other out, but it was an unfortunate timing. The top 4 wreck out of this race, and it's John Mignacca out of nowhere who's doing some burnouts at the front straightaway as your race winner in the Talladega 200.
What an incredible turn of events. You know, Josh Dietz obviously pushing hard all night long. Had a few frustrations here and there, but the biggest frustration came on lap 75, coming out of turn 2 on the backstretch. That was really unfortunate, and you know, obviously Jeremy Adams and Kyle Major, as you saw, got involved, and just, oh man, you have to feel for him because he was just fighting so hard, and I'm sure he'll be a little upset after that one, but that's really Talladega racing, and there's really nothing you can do about that, unfortunately.
If you wreck out, I think, you know, 10 laps into the race, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 laps into the race, you can look back and say, well, it was Talladega, it happened. But when you're that close at a shot for the win and you wreck out, you can't help but feel a little bit bittersweet. Here's how they came home when it was all said and done with a look at your LSR TV full race results. It is John Mignacca who wins this one by 7/100ths of a second over Gary Sexton at the start-finish line. Ryan Howard comes home 3rd. We hope to get word from those drivers trackside in a the moment. William Kemp comes home fourth, and John Theodore is going to be the one who rounds out your top 5. James Carhula, P6. Gerald Campbell, 7th. Matthew Urfrey, 8th position. Dustin, 9th. And a quiet Seth the Merchant rounds out your top 10.
Ricky Harden will finish P11. P12 will go to Derek Paulson. P13, Kyle Lowry. P14, Todd Novosad. Christian Peterson, P15. And your last car on the lead lap, that's P16, Paul Henley, Josh Dietz. An unfortunate night for him. P17, P18, Jeremy Adams. And P19 will go to Kyle Manger. Those were the 3 involved in that last lap wreck. And P20 will go to Tyler Dalton.
Round out your top 20 runners, and she mentioned everybody else multiple laps down and pretty much out of this race by the time it came to fruition. 21st, Sean DeCrossway, Beverly 22nd, Matt Cuckers 23rd, with Jeremy Watkins and Stephen Hollingsworth 24th and 25th. John Line, Devin Morgan, Reese Baum, Gabe Wood, and Bo Gibbons all the way through P30.
P31st goes to Nicholas Caldwell, Kenny Lowry. P32, P33 will go to Randy Yoakum, and P34 will go to Blake Griffin. Rounding out that 34 car field, and just what a race we had tonight, Evan.
What a race and what a finish, and the driver who came out on top of it all was the 3 of John Magnaka. Let's go trackside and chat with the driver of that number 3 machine. John, congratulations on the win. We knew that anytime you get a 1 lap to go shootout at Talladega, things are going to be absolutely crazy. There's no doubt about that. But, I mean, you guys were within P6. It's completely within striking distance, but I'm sure you didn't see it happen in the way that it did. Just talk us through your night and, of course, that restart.
You know what? That was unreal is what it was. I actually kind of had a feeling today. Today, first off, is my birthday, so I kind of went into this race. I'm not a great short track driver. I'm more of a super speedway guy because you can team up with a few guys and really push your way to the front. I got a good 2-tire call early on in the race to give me track position, and then we got the caution at the right time, and it just so happened that the front pack happened to wreck, and I just got through, and my heart was beating on the front straight to the checker there.
Well, those guys in front of you wrecked because a little bit of blocking. It's exactly what you have to do late in one of these races. And all of a sudden, you find yourself in the race lead there. 2 trucks lined up behind you, which means that it came a little bit late. But Gary did have the help per se from the 42 of Howard there. So if they teamed up, could have gone high, could have gone low on you. Instead, you were just kind of watching to see what that number 31 machine would do. You followed him high, and he almost got to your inside there in the tri-oval.
Yeah, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. It's good for a career best anyways. I want to give a shout-out to those guys for playing safe. Nobody wrecked me there coming up to the checker. So we had a good crew up front, and I'm happy for those guys too.
Always good when you can see a good hard fight like that to the end and all the trucks make it home in one piece, which can't be said for the group of 4 that led you off into turn number 2 on that last lap there. What is, coming into a race like this, more so, you say that you like this kind of style of racing, but you can be so good at big track racing, you can be so good at small track racing. Go to a place like Bristol, get junked just because it's a Bristol. Go to a place like Talladega and get junked just because it is a place like Talladega. So what does it mean to come into a race feeling good about your chances and then being able to deliver on that?
You know what? I've been looking forward to this race since I saw the schedule at the beginning of the season there. So I got wrecked out of Daytona before I even started my first lap. So I was really looking forward to try and take this one home. I'm just a beginner. I'm learning, and I'm thankful for all the guys in the league for giving me a break sometimes. But yeah, you know what? We just got lucky, I think, today. A little bit of skill in some calls, and then a little bit of luck in the end, right?
Never hurts to have that on your side here at Talladega. John, I know you mentioned some people. We'll let you get out of here and celebrate. Before we do, anybody else you want to say hi to while we got you?
Yeah, my brother's watching. He supports us every week, and the truck is sponsored by Glixie.com. It's a local website for the city I'm in, so if any boys are here from the Sioux, please check out Glixie.com. Thanks a lot, guys.
Race winner tonight from Talladega and the birthday boy, John Magnaka. John, congratulations on that W. Happy birthday as well, and best of luck going forward. Hopefully we'll have many of opportunities to chat as well later on this year. So that's your race winner from Talladega. And it was a very close interval back to second and third. Gary Sexton to P2, Ryan Howard to P3. Trevin's trackside with those two first, with the driver of the 31.
Down here on pit lane with Gary Sexton. Starting first, finishing second. Gary, walk us through that last lap and what it was like inside the cab of that 31 machine.
Oh man, well, on the restart, I thought I had just pretty much ruined it. I got a terrible restart. I was not expecting the 9 to go that soon, and he did. So at that point, it was just hoping that they would either get 3 wide, where we get a good run down the backstretch, or worst case scenario, they get into each other. What ended up happening. I hate to see that. I like to finish these out without the wrecks, but it paid off. And when there's only 3 guys left, it's kind of hard to really build up a good enough run to make a move. And I was going to go to the outside out of 4, and I saw the 42 kind of peek his nose to the inside, so I decided to stay tucked in behind the leader and try to get to his inside. That almost worked, but at that point, like I said, it's hard to build up a run, and we just kind of put it home second. I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming from Charlotte and Texas, how much of a change was it from those cookie cutters to this big 2.66 mile track?
Yeah, I avoid these tracks like the plague, but had some time tonight to come out and run with the CEA guys. I don't run a whole lot of races with them, but when I do have the time, it's always a blast. They put on a awesome race. But yeah, I avoid the plate tracks as much as possible. I'm not that good at them. I usually just hang out in the back and wait for the wrecks to develop. But I just, I decided tonight I was going to qualify and try to run up front the whole night, and was up there. It paid off. I mean, I was up there most of the night, and got shuffled back a few times. Was able to get myself back. So I think that everyone's out there looking for the key to these deals. I think you gotta stay up front and race hard.
Absolutely, that is the key to plate track racing. And before we let you go tonight, any sponsors or shout-outs that you'd like to hand out here tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out my team, CCR, Cross Continent Racing, all the guys from CCR. We just work hard in the leagues that we run and the official stuff to just get faster and faster and faster. I'd like to thank Kyle Barnes for putting on the CEA. And giving us an opportunity to come over here and race. It's awesome. The guys over here are top notch. It feels good to finish in the top 5, and yeah.
All right, that is the number 31 of Gary Sexton, starting first and finishing 1 position behind that. Thank you, Gary, tonight, and hope to see you next week.
Thank you.
And now we're going to be talking to Ryan Howard, who finished 3rd place, started 7th, and finished 3rd. Ryan, how was that out there tonight throughout the whole entire race, and especially, those last few laps, and what was really going through your mind through those caution laps?
Yeah, overall it was a pretty good race. I didn't really know what to expect there with 1 to go. Just hold it wide open, and pretty much expected to run 9th or where we restarted, or 8th, but just saw them all go synchronized spinning down the back straightaway, and us 3 made it through, and just tried to run it out from there without wrecking the other 2 of them. So it was a pretty good race. Didn't really have my teammates all race, so played a little bit of a different strategy, and came home 3rd, so it's all right.
Yeah, really good finish for the starting position that you had, and coming into tonight, 27th in the points, and seeing the races on the schedule still. You got Myrtle Beach, South Boston, Eldora, Irwindale, and all those unconventional kind of races. What are your plans on getting yourself further up into the point standings to have a shot at the championship by the end of this thing?
Yeah, so right now things have changed a little bit. Full-time schedule turned into part-time, so I'll take a look at the schedule and see what lands where. But I'll definitely pop in when I can and run with these guys. It's fun to have options, so we'll go that route and see what happens.
Absolutely. And before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to shout out, sponsor, shout outs, anything before I let you go?
Yeah, thanks guys for doing the broadcast. We just had a little different strategy tonight. Usually I have my teammates up there, and we usually try to stick together, but we didn't have that opportunity tonight. I got a good push from Ricky there at the end of the race, and it sounds like he got in the wall a little bit or something, kind of ruined our momentum. But would have been a little bit funner to have him and DJ. I think we would have had a good shot to get to the front cleanly. So that was a brief thanks there, but yeah, just thanks for doing the broadcast, and appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for putting on a fantastic show, and hopefully to see you next week in the Victory Lane Circle.
Absolutely, thanks.
And that was Ryan Howard, number 42 machine, finishing third. Evan, closing thoughts.
Well, big thanks as always. We really appreciate what the drivers stick around post-race, give us some of the thoughts. So big thanks, John, Gary, Ryan, for chatting with us after what was a very spirited bout. And I think that the top three were in pretty good spirits at the end of a Talladega race, mainly because, Trevor, they didn't think they would be top three. Everybody in front of them wrecked. I'm sure if we talked to some of those drivers, maybe the thoughts on how this race went down would be a little bit different. But that knocks another one off of the calendar. Next one up for this series going to be 2 weeks' time for the Milwaukee Mile. That kind of, I think, falls into that category of some of those unique racetracks that you were talking about. But you wanted Dega. You got Dega tonight.
Yeah, Dega definitely presented itself, and just what a race. And it never fails to put on a great show. There's really nothing else that you can ask for from Dega other than, what we saw tonight. And, it was full of a lot of exciting turns and definitely some twists and some late race shockers. And, I'm really excited to see all these unconventional tracks that we were talking about come to fruition here on the schedule, and, see how these drivers really handle it going through the later parts of the schedule.
And of course, those later parts of the schedule all going to be right here about LSR TV and iRacing Live, but we've got a good bit of live sim racing to fix for you for the next couple of days before this series does return in 2 weeks' time. We'll be back with you tomorrow night on the 18th, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It is the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series powered by English Auto LLC. Hope to see you for that one. And then on Wednesday, it is the Fort Chiswell RV Park Weekly Dirt Series presented by LSR TV. That one starts at 9 Eastern, and you can find a full broadcast schedule, information on how to get your series at LSR TV and all of that good stuff on our website at www.livesimracing.com. But the best way to stay up to date with us is by following us on social media. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/LSR TV official, or just search LSR TV into the search bar, or you can follow us on Twitter at LSR TV for more information. On behalf of our entire team behind the scenes at Live Sim Racing LLC, for DJ Lyon, Laura Loss, and all of the people who make it happen topside in the LSR TV booth on a night in and night out basis, for Kyle Barnes and everybody else at Championship Esports, and for your broadcast team tonight, on behalf of myself, Evan Kosoko, for Trevor Valderrama, and our executive producer, Cisco Scaramuso, we want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate John Megadaka, now a winner in the trucks from Talladega. This series will return 2 weeks' time on July the 1st. It'll be on Canada Day for the Milwaukee Mile. That race and every race of the Championship Esports Association American Pool Supply Truck Series going to be found right here on LSR TV, your home for sim. Till next time, good night from Talladega.